This is Contra Zoom.
where we go back and forth about film.
I'm Dakota Arsenault.
And I'm Jeff Bulmer.
We are back with another video episode. So if you listen to the podcast on Spotify or on YouTube, you will actually be able to see this episode. Unfortunately, if you do listen to this on other platforms, this will be audio only, but that will not diminish the greatness of this episode. And that is because you, Jeff Bulmer, were able to conduct another interview, another video interview, and it was a great one. This time it was with the director of Perfectly a Strangeness, Alison McAlpine, which is an Oscar nominated film for Best Documentary Short. So that's really exciting. So tell me a little bit about this one, Jeff.
Yeah, I was very lucky, very excited to see the email hit my inbox saying that Allison was open for interviews because for those who have seen Perfectly a Strangeness, this is it's a really unique um, nomination within the doc short category. It's much it's much more of an experimental or hybrid documentary than you would usually expect from that category. And that works for some people, that doesn't work for some people. For me it really worked, and I am always excited to get the opportunity when I see something that is like that works for me but is maybe a little more out there. I'm really excited to sort of get into the director's head and figure out, what were they trying to say with this.
Mhm.
And I was really excited to be able to talk to Allison about some of that, and just kind of pick her brain a bit. And I hope that even the people who maybe this short didn't work for as much will get a lot out of this, because that's my goal. This is a movie that's a little stranger. I think it's really, it is a strangeness, so it's interesting to kind of get into what that's all about. And we have the brilliant opportunity to be able to talk to the person who was there on the ground. So yeah, I hope people enjoy this. I hope that my questions can kind of get to the deeper truth of what's going on here.
Nice. Well, I think that's a great way to set this interview up, and we should just go right into this. And so here we go. This is Jeff's conversation with the director of Perfectly a Strangeness, Alison McAlpine.
Hello, my name is Jeff Bulmer from Contra Zoom Pod, and I am here today with Alison McAlpine, the director of Perfectly a Strangeness. Thank you for sitting down with me, Allison.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For our Canadian listeners, Perfectly Strangeness is currently on Crave, and when I was rewatching this, I just noticed the Crave synopsis, so I wanted to read that out. In the dazzling incandescence of an unknown desert, three donkeys discover an abandoned astronomical observatory and the universe. So, with that synopsis, I just kind of wanted to ask, where did the idea for this short come from?
There were many sources of inspiration, but one was that I shot a feature film in the same area
Hmm.
in the Atacama Desert, and there was one, and we shot in various astronomical observatories, and at the end of the feature, I had to deliver a short. So basically, I wanted, of course, as a filmmaker, to push myself in ways I hadn't done before.
Hmm.
So anyway, one of the many things that I love that area, but that fascinated me was that often when we go to film, there were many donkeys, walking amongst or just grazing amongst these observatory domes, these huge metallic domes. And that juxtaposition fascinated me between the donkeys and the observatory and these telescopes. So I asked myself, how do they see this world? And then there was a long exploration of how um, yeah, of how to replicate. I wanted well, I went for, there's many things, but I went and I explored. I just, in Montreal, we went and we put a simple light in a donkey's eye, and it was just like, for some eyes were just absolutely beautiful. Though they looked dark to us, they were like galaxies inside with colors and shapes. And then the other was just, anamorphic lenses to replicate the near panoramic vision and
Mm.
talking to scientists about how donkeys see and hear, etc. But that was one. So there was a necessity of doing a short and then posing these questions. I had several questions, but that was one of the questions.
One thing I thought was quite interesting is so for those who don't know, I don't think I've said this yet. Your short is nominated for Best Documentary Feature at the Oscars this year, so congratulations. Um,
Thank you.
but I had a friend watch this and not realize that it was nominated for documentary short because it sort of it doesn't contain a lot of the things you would normally associate with a documentary. There's no narration. It's all wordless and it just follows these donkeys around and a lot is left to the viewer to sort of interpret what's going on. And I think my friend in particular thought it was a narrative short just because he imposed a narrative on it. So I'm curious when I'm watching this movie, where for you did you see that intersection of sort of a narrative and a documentary style, or, does it not fit either of those things for you?
I guess when I make a film, I think I'm not thinking, is it documentary or
Mhm.
fiction or whatnot. I'm just trying to use the tools that make sense for me to tell that particular story. So, and I love hybrid films, I guess you could call it, but even the most traditional documentary is is a fiction, really, because it's your particular subjective gaze. You're making choices. So I'm simply in this case wanting to tell a tall tale and had written a treatment which is which was a combination of directing these donkeys as best I could and following them, but I was there was a particular tale I was telling. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but it was a um, it's just a film. It's a short film, and I don't think I mean, there are more traditional documentaries that are more issue oriented and
Mhm.
maybe more talking heads, etc. But as you know, documentary and or fiction too, fiction uses documentary forms, right? There's
Right.
such a large palette. And I think perhaps in a more American style documentary, which I include Canada in too, that still more journalistic definition of documentary is very prominent. But what's been fun with this film, in brief, is that it's been shown in documentary festivals. It's been shown among fictions in more fiction festivals. It's been shown in more experimental festivals. It's been shown in various different ways. And yeah, for me, it's a film that
Mhm.
uses whatever tools, to tell the story best, tell the story.
You did mention there directing the donkeys, and I'm curious just what that experience was like because I'm sure it's a rather unique experience.
Yeah, gosh, I could tell you, it would long past these few minutes, but stories about directing donkeys. But yeah, it was sometimes really challenging and just working with animals and we had one rebel donkey, so we spent a lot of time chasing the donkeys, and he would lead the others off into the desert. So it was not easy to find them, let alone bring them back. But yeah, I don't know what stories I could tell you, just that it was it just trying to get them up the hill. I wanted them up the hill into the observatory, and so you know, um, trying various ways, including with some food. And then if you give them too much food, they don't want to move. They want to just hang out. And yeah, it was just and a process of being open to what was happening in front of us.
Mhm.
Like the ears, like their ears that seem to be alive, like antennas to the world around them. So it was very much a process of it was very much a documentary in so many ways.
Mhm. Um, there are some really striking images in this, and I think the one that really stood out to me the most on my most recent viewing of it, there's a shot where you capture the shadow of this giant cloud that itself kind of looks like a donkey. Um, that was that just an amazing coincidence that happened? How did that come about?
Yeah, this is a total coincidence. It was like we wanted to do a, because of course the film happens in 24 hours more or less, right? Like
Mhm.
from dawn to dawn more or less. And so I wanted that. And so I wanted a time lapse from night to day. No, from day to night, sorry. And so we did this time lapse, and I actually thought I knew I was going to get shadows, but I actually thought I'd get more shadows of because you can in certain times of the year, and which I'd seen in my film Cielo, you can get shadows of the observatory domes on the hills. And so we did it this time, it's a different type of year. And then we saw these shadows. And we saw this head of a donkey in the shadows, which some people see, some people don't, right? And we were like all so excited, but it was just a happy coincidence. Yeah. So, and then the scientist, one of the lead scientists, said to me, uh, you know, there's this donkey shadow. He sent me a picture because the scientist, there's a lot of amateur photographers there.
Mhm.
And and so, and we said, oh no, we saw the donkey shadow. So they'd been seeing this donkey shadow before too,
Oh,
but anyway, there were many, many in this process of shooting this film. There were many coincidences like that.
it reminds me. I grew up in a pretty religious area, and it reminds me of when friends of mine would like they would come with these Christian magazines that said only true believers can see the angel in the cloud or something like that.
Ah,
And I wrote down a kind of a silly question here, but just because you spent so long with these donkeys, sort of kind of getting into their heads, and I think that that shadow, it kind of, at least in a narrative sense, for me, maybe my interpretation is unique, but I kind of saw that it sort of places it sort of makes it almost, for lack of a better word, religious, because there's these donkeys and then there's this higher power in the form of the shadow, maybe not, which and that's just sort of how I saw that. And the silly question I wrote down is, do you think donkeys believe in God?
oh, I don't know about that. They're certainly the ones I've encountered, certainly gentle creatures. Um, and according to the owner of a donkey sanctuary, where we've shot the full frame image of the donkey's eye. That's the only shot in north of Montreal.
Mhm.
Well, only shot outside Chile we did. But anyway, according to Lucy, who's wonderful, she says donkeys love classical music, but that's
Hmm.
the because she plays classical music. She collects she gives homes to abandoned donkeys. But no, I couldn't comment on the donkeys and their spiritual beliefs, but they certainly walk in this world slowly and explore this world slowly and seemingly gently.
Hmm.
And they apparently, according to scientists, have this retina in their eyes like dogs or cats, so they can see more in the night than we can.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm not sure about their beliefs.
Thank you so much, Allison. And once again, congratulations on your Oscar nomination.
Thank you very much.
And for our Canadian listeners, once again, Perfectly a Strangeness is currently on Crave. Please go check it out. I think it is. It's. I watch a lot of documentary shorts that get nominated for Oscars, and this one is really unique. It's really something special in that category.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that was the interview that you conducted with Allison. I had a great time watching that. I haven't seen the short yet, so I'm very excited. This now has moved to the top of my list of one that I'm very excited to see. I know you didn't really talk about this with her because this is obviously not her purview, but I'm curious, what was your general thought on the slate of the documentary shorts this year?
I think it's a really, I mean, I think I've been open about it on your podcast and I think even on mine as well. I think that just in general, this is a really strong year for nominations at the Oscars. And I don't think that the doc short category is an exception there. I
Mm.
think that there are some phenomenal doc shorts nominated this year. I think Perfectly a Strangeness, maybe I'm biased because I was able to talk to the director, but I do think that is my personal favorite. But I would not be sad to see any of them win. I think there's, this is, I talked about this with The Secret Agent on your podcast, which people can listen to. But I think that what really stands out to me about Perfectly a Strangeness is that it's very weird. It's a very out there pick in Doc Short, and I love to see the Academy taking risks. And Doc Short is a category where they do take a lot of risks quite often. This is maybe one of the, I don't know if riskiest is the right word, but it is one of the more strange nominations that has been there. So it's really special. I said it in the interview. I'll repeat it here. This is a really special nomination within this category, and so I'm very happy to see it there.
Nice. And I guess the last thing I want to ask is I'm sort of surprised you didn't ask her what her favorite donkey movie was, because it seemed like a few years ago we were living in the year of the donkey between films like EO and Banshees of Inisherin and of course Pinocchio, and I feel like there's quite a few donkey related films this year, so I'm half surprised you didn't ask her if she had a favorite donkey film.
You know, the way that I write down, a little behind the scenes, the way that I write down my questions is I write them all down at once. Like I watch the short and I write down all the questions I have, and then before the interview, when I'm getting ready for the interview, I write them all down again just to make sure that I actually like all of the questions. And I think on my original piece of paper, I did have "What is your favorite donkey movie?" and somehow that did not make it to the second piece of paper. So, you know, I said in the interview that I actually asked all my questions. That's true. There was one glaring omission that you have correctly pointed out. So maybe next time I'll get another opportunity someday.
Maybe, maybe. Either way, Jeff, terrific work. Thank you so much for doing this interview. I'm going to link to where you can find the short in the show notes. But Jeff, if people want to find more of your work, what's the best way they could do that at?
Well, the best way for now is on Spotify, where I have my own podcast, Classic Movies Live, which I do with Pierre Frigon. I am also on several episodes of Contra Zoom Pod, which you can find on, you know, Spotify and many other platforms. And I write a bit for your website as well. So if you go to contrazoompod.com, you can see several of my reviews there. And probably lots of stuff upcoming. But for now, those are the main places that if I am doing anything imminently, you will see it.
Fantastic. Yes, I will make sure to link to all that in the show notes. This has been a That Shelf podcast. Visit thatshelf.com for more great film discourse. Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at ContraZoomPod. Uh, have you seen Perfectly a Strangeness? What was your thoughts on the documentary short category? I would love to know. Leave a comment or on Spotify or send us an email. And thank you to Eric and Kevin Smale for the theme music and to Stephanie Pryor for the logo design. If you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, or in this case, watch them, we do post all episodes there as well. And if you really like the show, consider tipping us on coffee. Thanks for checking us out.